Apotheosis Chapter 23. The aura that Luo Zheng erupted with immediately drew everyone's gazes over. Even the large group of landowning households who were relatively far away were looking in this direction with the mentality of watching a show. Hee, this Wang Hengji is getting more and more bored. He actually brought his troops to target a small nobody. He doesn't know that a cornered dog will jump over a wall, a white-clothed landowning household disciple said softly as he waved a jade fan. So what? He's a cornered dog and doesn't have the strength to jump over a wall. This kid is only in the viscera refinement realm. He can't jump over a wall even if he wanted to. However, Wang Hengji is indeed bored. He actually spent the effort to deal with a viscera refinement realm fellow. Another landowning household disciple nodded. However, the guard beside this landowning household disciple cupped his hands and said, "Young Master Hua, when you participate in the trial of blood and fire, you must pay attention to this person." What do you mean? The landowning household disciple surnamed Hua knew that his guard wouldn't speak carelessly. This guard was a Xiantian realm expert who had returned from the Azura battlefield. He was very good at judging people. The guard continued, "This subordinate doesn't know why, but although this person is only in the viscera refinement realm, he gives me an extremely dangerous feeling." Hua Gongzi raised his eyebrows to receive such an evaluation from his guard. He said with interest, "If that's the case, Wang Hengji will be in a bit of trouble this time." These landowning household disciples weren't completely united. Some of them even had great conflicts. Therefore, young Master Hua didn't need to remind Wang Hengji. Of course, even if his guard gave this kid a high evaluation, he still thought that this was just a small problem for Wang Hengji. Only landowning households knew how much power Wang Hengji, who was also a landowning household, possessed. Luo Peiran and the group of landowning household disciples all had ugly expressions when they heard Luo Zheng's disrespectful words. Wang Hengji nimbly flipped the butterfly jade pendant over and over between his fingers. He still looked as calm as ever, but a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. "Actually, death is the easiest way for you to escape. I have many ways to make you suffer a fate worse than death. Do you want to reconsider?" "There's no need. Although I, Luo Zheng, have a cheap life, I won't die so easily." Luo Zheng laughed harshly. "Seventh brother, why waste words with this kid? Just kill him." A tall young man rushed out from behind Wang Hengji. Unable to hold himself back, he swung his fist at Luo Zheng's head. This young man's strength was not bad. He was at the peak of the marrow refining stage. Moreover, there were faint and fine runes flowing on his fists. It was obvious that he had cultivated an extremely powerful fist technique. In the face of such a powerful punch, Luo Zheng did not evade. Instead, he threw out a punch of his own, intending to meet force with force. Everyone who saw this scene shook their heads. They thought that this Luo Zheng had some backbone, but it was only his mouth that was powerful. Using the strength of a viscera refining stage cultivator to fight against a marrow refining stage cultivator, who was also a descendant of a landowning household, his cultivation method was naturally much more powerful than Luo Zheng's. If Luo Zheng were to meet it head-on, this punch would probably shatter Luo Zheng's arm. Not far away, Mo Kan's mouth was agape. His eyes were filled with worry. Mo Kan knew that Luo Zheng's strength was not as simple as it seemed. However, he had not seen the final scene yesterday. He thought that even if Luo Zheng was not simple, it was impossible for him to meet a peak marrow refining stage cultivator head-on. This time, Luo Zheng would most likely suffer a great loss. However, the scene that everyone expected did not occur. The two fists collided, producing a muffled sound. Luo Zheng stood in place, his legs firmly nailed to the ground. His body did not move at all. A warm current flowed through his body, dissolving the power of his opponent's fist. As for the tall young man, he took a few steps back and almost fell to the ground. His hand was hanging to the side, clearly injured. His face was also flushed red. The majority of the people present did not expect this result. Their faces were filled with astonishment. Their gazes towards Luo Zheng contained a faint trace of admiration. Using the strength of a viscera refining stage to meet a marrow refining stage cultivator head-on was not something an ordinary person could do. Especially the 1,000 or so grassroots cultivators present. When they saw Luo Zheng teach the insolent descendant of a landowning household a lesson, they felt an indescribable joy in their hearts. The people by Wang Hengji's side could not hold themselves back any longer. They all began to shout and curse, surrounding Luo Zheng. It looked like they were about to attack him together. Luo Zheng narrowed his eyes. If the other side wanted to swarm him, then he could only fight with his life on the line. Since he was going to die, then he would drag them down with him. At this moment, someone shouted sternly, "What are you doing? Today is the day for you to participate in the trial of blood and fire, not for you to fight." Everyone raised their heads to look and saw another 30 flying chariots speeding towards them from the horizon. The person who had shouted was standing on the flying chariot at the very front. He wore cotton clothing and had a square face. He was the invigilator in charge of the trial of blood and fire, Zhong Ming. Zhong Ming jumped down from the flying chariot and walked towards Luo Zheng with thunderous steps. He asked loudly, "Who was fighting just now?" Replying invigilator, "He was the one fighting." Luo Peiran jumped out at just the right moment and pointed at Luo Zheng. "It takes 2 hands to clap." "Who was the other person?" Zhong Ming asked again. "It was me." The tall descendant of the Wang clan frankly admitted it. Zhong Ming nodded and said, "Very good. Both of you are disqualified from the trial of blood and fire." Luo Zheng's expression immediately became very ugly. If he was disqualified because of this, then he would be too wronged. Invigilator, they were the ones who started it first. I was forced to fight back. Why are you disqualifying me? If you dare to fight here, then you should be prepared to be kicked out of the Blue Cloud sect. Zhong Ming did not listen to Luo Zheng's explanation at all. The tall descendant of the Wang clan said, "Invigilator, I am already an inner disciple of the Blue Cloud sect. I did not participate in this trial of blood and fire." "Inner disciple?" Zhong Ming asked, "Which peak are you from?" Replying invigilator, "I am from Tianyi Peak." The descendant of the Wang clan said again, "Yes, your Tianyi Peak's instructor Su is also here. Since you are an inner disciple, 100 points will be deducted as punishment." Zhong Ming quickly judged. Hearing Zhong Ming's punishment, the Wang clan descendant led by Wang Hengji all smiled. 100 points might be a huge sum of points for a grassroots person who had no one to rely on. However, it was nothing to the descendant of an aristocratic family. Using 100 points to kick Luo Zheng out was what they wanted to see. However, the 1,000 or so trial disciples all had unhappy expressions on their faces. This punishment was neither painful nor itchy. Zhong Ming was simply biased towards these landowning households. At this time, the instructors of the 33 peaks had all arrived at the scene in flying chariots. After these trial disciples passed the trial of blood and fire, the instructors of the 33 peaks of the Blue Cloud sect would accept them into their peaks based on their results and performance. For the better development of their respective peaks, all of the instructors naturally followed the principle of selecting the best disciples and bringing them into their peaks. Luo Zheng was extremely unwilling at this moment. He felt that this invigilator was clearly biased towards him, so he decided to argue with reason. "Invigilator, I really didn't make the first move just now. So many people here saw it. Isn't it unfair for you to punish me like this?" "Unfair? Let me ask you, did you make a move just now?" Zhong Ming asked expressionlessly. "Yes." Luo Zheng spoke the truth. "Then that's enough. You don't need to say any more. Hand over your disciple token. Get out of the Blue Cloud sect." Zhong Ming waved his hand and extended it in front of Luo Zheng. Luo Zheng took 2 steps back and said sternly, "Invigilator, your punishment is too unfair. Let alone me, the 1,000 or so trial disciples present also refused to accept it." Zhong Ming didn't expect that a trial disciple would dare to speak so much to him and even dare to question him. He said furiously, "How dare you?" He raised his hand and was about to slap Luo Zheng. Zhong Ming didn't use any cultivation method for this slap, but he had already stepped into the Xiantian realm for many years. His strength had broken through the limits of the physical body. Facing this slap, Luo Zheng's expression changed abruptly. Even if his body was comparable to a Xian weapon and could dissolve most of the strength, he didn't have the indestructible body of Vajra. This strength had far exceeded the limits of his body. If he was hit by this slap, even if he didn't die, he would be seriously injured. But at this moment, a clear voice rang out. "Zhongming, what are you doing?" When Luo Zheng and Zhongming heard this voice, they both looked over and saw a beautiful woman in a jade-green dress standing not far away. Luo Zheng remembered this jade-green dress woman. After passing the C test yesterday, he had seen her. When Zhongming saw her, his lion-like angry face immediately calmed down. He tried to use a calm tone and said, "Nothing much. I'm just teaching a trial disciple who didn't follow the rules a lesson." Zhongming knew very well how troublesome this jade-green dress woman in front of him was. He didn't want to be caught by this woman even if he was beaten to death. On second thought, he wanted to downplay this matter and let it pass. In fact, Instructor Su had seen everything that had just happened. If Zhongming had hit another trial disciple, she would have let it go. Even if she was full of energy every day, she wouldn't go around poking her nose into other people's business. But Zhongming just happened to target Luo Zheng. Luo Zheng had been reserved by Instructor Su. She had already seen Luo Zheng as the biggest dark horse among the disciples recruited this year. How could he be kicked out of the Blue Cloud sect by Zhongming just like that? This was something that Instructor Su would never allow to happen. Didn't follow the rules. What rules did he not follow? Instructor Su asked again. Fighting with people here has already violated the rules of the Blue Cloud sect. Zhongming's voice was 2 notches lower. He could hear that this mentor Su was clearly looking for trouble. "I didn't fight with anyone. They attacked me first and I was forced to fight back." Luo Zheng seized this opportunity to defend himself. Zhongming's face changed. He wanted to fight with Luo Zheng again, but Instructor Su's cold voice sounded behind Zhongming. "Zhongming, as an invigilator, you have to distinguish between right and wrong. Why don't you even give this trial disciple the right to argue? Could it be that you have a guilty conscience?" Hearing Instructor Su's cold voice, Zhongming immediately knew that he was in trouble. This great ant was angry. He understood that he couldn't cover up today's matter. He could only smile and say, "Instructor Su, I don't have a guilty conscience. It's just a small matter." A small matter. Let him speak clearly. "This trial disciple, what do you think is going on?" Instructor Su asked. "It's them." Luo Zheng pointed at Wang Hingji and Luo Peiran's group and said, "They came to provoke me for no reason. One of them rushed over and hit me. I was forced to fight back." Zhongming sneered and said, "Kid, this is your side of the story. Who here dares to prove it to you?" The scene suddenly became quiet. Wang Hingji revealed a faint smile, and Luo Peiran laughed proudly. Landowning households naturally wouldn't offend Wang Hingji over such a trivial matter. As for the 1,000 or so trial disciples who came from the grassroots, who would dare to stand out and prove it? It was just as they thought. Although this matter happened in front of everyone's eyes, and the 1,000 trial disciples were still quite indignant, not a single one dared to stand out. If they stood out now, they would offend Wang Hingji to death. Who among the grassroots present would dare to stand out? Did they think that their lives were too long? Did they think that their lives were too long? Did they think